I like watching MMA. You guys ever watch MMA? Sometimes you watch those fights, and it's just so clearly one-sided. You've got one fighter, maybe it's Sean Strickland, and he's just cool and collected. He's marching forward. He's going bam, bam. The other guy's just flailing around, sweating, struggling, and you can see it. And that's how I felt last night watching this debate between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance. Tim Walz was flustered, stuttering right from the start. The first question he gets asked, he cannot answer. And J.D. Vance, cool as a cucumber, just runs straight through. It was a masterclass. I got to say, look, I was a fan of J.D. Vance from the get-go. I was calling him vanilla pudding the other day. I'm not going to say that now. As I described him last night, he is more like a fine flan that has been made by your abuelita. You know, it's perfectly made with all the right ingredients, the perfect touch of cinnamon, and you know it was done right. It's still basically vanilla pudding, but it's the best you've had. What I mean to say is J.D. Vance is a straight shooter. Regular guy, clean, clear, articulate, well-spoken, all of that good stuff. But he is savvy. He made a bunch of moves during the debate, which I saw how he was trying to navigate the media lies and manipulations that would come afterwards. A good example is when he says something to the effect of Democrats do this thing. And of course, I'm talking about Democrat leadership. Masterfully done. Masterfully done. Guys, Tim Walz said that he was friends with school shooters. He straight up said that. I don't know what he was trying to say. I'm going to be completely honest. And when he was asked, this is crazy. A journalist followed up with him and asked him, hey, can you clarify this for us? He ignores the question and he orders pizza or something. Dude, Tim Walz, that moment on the debate stage said that he was friends with school shooters. I mean, there are people who are school shooters who are in jail. I'm wondering if he literally meant that he went to these prisons and met these young men and tried to understand them. I mean, you got to clarify that, bro, because otherwise, what the was that? But of course, one of the hottest moments, and I'll give a shout out for all the criticisms the CBS moderators are getting for that debate. I'm going to give a shout out when they asked Tim Walz about how he lied about being in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square incident. During Tiananmen Square. And then he said, well, I misspoke. I'm a knucklehead. And they asked him again. He tried to patter for 2 minutes. He's like, well, you know, I like to go to China because there's culture. Trump should go to China. And then the moderators say, yeah, but the question was, why did you claim you were there during Tiananmen Square? And he says, I said it. I was there. I misspoke. Talk about brutal. Now, in my mind, I was thinking J.D. Vance should have immediately just turned to Tim Walz and said, what about it? Like, were you there or not? But the moderators went right after him. And I was really, really impressed with that. Now, there was another moment where the moderators tried to, quote unquote, fact check J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance, and he got caught with this one. He did, as much as I think he won. He said, hey, you said the rules were no fact checking, so I'm gonna call this out. Accurately pointing out that there's the CBP1 app where illegal immigrants go on the app, put in their info, and instantly they're temporarily legal and then get work permits. That's not legal immigration as we expect it. Walz then said the weirdest thing ever. These laws have been on the books since the 90s. Like, what? Mobile apps didn't exist in 1990. What are you talking about? The trap here for J.D. Vance is that now the left is quoting him as saying, you said you weren't going to fact check. So he's making it look like the left is making it look like J.D. Vance was saying something wrong when J.D. Vance was saying, you're trying to fact check me, but you are wrong. I'm going to call you out. We're going to get into all this, my friends. We've got more news as well with the the attack on Israel and the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Things are heating up. Israel is talking about retaliation against Iran. And of course, why wouldn't they? Nearly 200 missiles just barraged Israel. Donald Trump says the failure of leadership in Washington from Biden and Harris is leading us to World War III. We got a crazy story where apparently it's being alleged that Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, beat his wife or his ex-girlfriend or something like that. I mean, I got to pull this up and go through it for you guys, but it's kind of wild. And then we've got the dock strike. Everyone's asking, Tim, what's going on with the dock strike? Not only is it big for these workers, and I do hope they get what they want. They deserve it. These guys are deeply important to our country, the work they do, bringing in all our goods. But I'm going to tell you, my friends, we are 34 days from the election? How many days? No, 33 days? Technically 34, I guess, because today's not over. prices are going to go up. With the Middle Eastern conflict, I mean, this is October surprise on steroids. Hillary Clinton saying something like they're going to try and make Kamala Harris look bad, fine. But when you've got escalating war in the Middle East, Iran striking Israel, and now you've got the dock workers strike, economic troubles are ahead, my friends. And this is the worst possible scenario for an incumbent presidential campaign. And Kamala Harris is basically the incumbent administration. So we're going to get into all of that stuff. Man, I'm so excited to talk about and give my review on that debate because we had such a good time. And we try to keep the chatter to a minimum during the debate, but we do want to criticize and correct. My friends, before we get started, hey, make sure you buy our new song, Coming Home. You got to buy it on iTunes because they're trying to manipulate and gatekeep so that we can't get credit for the work that we do. No joke. Go to iTunes, download the app. It's iTunes, not Apple Music. iTunes, buy Coming Home. It's 99 cents. Check the song out. Check out the music video. We got 715,000 views, 30,000 likes. It's been hitting, and we really do appreciate it. The song is basically, it was basically my feelings of when I went home and I saw these cities, when I saw what had become of them, when I hear the stories about San Francisco. I went to D.C. recently, and there's tents. There's just 6 tents. We were by this overpass in the middle of D.C., not a highway. Okay, it's just a bridge that went over the road, for traffic or whatever. And I'm like, there's tents everywhere. What have they done to these cities, man? And look, I know everybody rags on Trump for eating the dogs and eating the cats, but there's a video, at the very least, of someone grilling cats a year ago. What have they done to our cities, man? Check the song out. It's not a direct and overt political statement, but it's culture, it's art, and it's expressing those feelings we have. And if you agree with the message and you like the music, please buy the song, getcominghome.com. Pick it up on iTunes for $1. And then I got to say, if every single person who watched this show bought that song for $1, we'd be #1 on Billboard. And the top song would be a song saying outright, you have failed our cities. Let them write about that one. I don't really think we'll get there, but I'm just saying it would be nice, wouldn't it? Become a member at timcast.com to support our work. We can't exist without you guys. It's a fact. So we need you guys to go to timcast.com, click join us, $10 a month. Yo, inflation is brutal for us, as I'm sure it is for you guys, and we could use your support. If you like the morning show, the nightly show, Timcast IRL, and everything you do only can happen when you guys are members. But as a member, you can join the Discord server, hang out, and share your ideas with like-minded individuals. And also, we got that members-only call-in show every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m., where you as members get to submit questions and call in. So become members. And also, everybody watching, you got to smash that like button. If everybody who watched smashed the like button, we'd be the #1 video on YouTube. We have, not #1, I guess, but hey, 200 to 300,000 likes would put us through the roof, for real. But don't forget, you comment, super chat. We're going to read your super chats through every segment, and share the show with your friends if you do like it. Let's get into this, baby. We're excited. This is fun. Breaking. Let's start here. Tim Walz says, I've become friends with school shooters in weird debate moment. He didn't clarify. I don't know how to reconcile this. Let's play the clip for you.
I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football.
Okay.
I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football.
I'm going to play that one more time for you guys, all right?
So I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety.
All right. Everybody knows what a school shooter is. How did he become friends with them? And now I know a lot of people are going to be saying, like, oh, he must have misspoken. It must have been an accident. Maybe he meant something else. I'd like to believe it. And I got to say this to all you guys. Everybody who said that he gave the middle finger, and I'm like, come on, he probably didn't do that. I mean, maybe, but likely not. A photo has come out where he's from a high-end photographer, a photograph, high resolution, where he's clearly pointing. His hand looks really weird, and I don't understand what he was doing. His hand is like this. His fingers are all bent, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. But it was his index finger. Like, come on, a VP candidate's not going to flip off a bunch of college students. And as I stated the other day, and many people did, he was getting heckled, and if he did flip them off and then later said, hey, they were heckling me and shouting expletives, I gave him a bird. People might actually respect that. I mean, look at Trump. Trump's a crass dude. A lot of people like it. That being said, I don't think he did that. But this I can't understand. I got to be honest. What did he mean by this? I don't think he was trying to say something like, I've become friends with the family of the victims of school shooters. There's too much there that he missed. If he was going to say, I've become friends with families who have been victimized by school shooters, families who have been victimized is too long a phrase to accidentally not say. Was he trying to say, I've become friends with people who went to school when shooting was a normal practice? I don't get it. And make it worse, check this out. Tim Walz ignores calls to clarify his bizarre claim he had become friends with school shooters as he orders sausage pizza with his wife Gwen after CBS VP debate. Here we go. Listen to this.
Governor, you said you've become friends with school shooters during the debate. Can you clarify what you meant on that?
No.
Can you clarify what you meant when you said you'd be friends with school shooters? Why did you say you were in Hong Kong when reports...
Okay, we got to get into the Hong Kong stuff for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to comment honestly and tell me what you think he was trying to say, because I think we are trying to be nice to a guy who said what he meant and meant what he said. He's become friends with school shooters. I mean, let me play the clip for you and then...
So I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was NRA.
I've seen it. Maybe, and I mean this, the interpretation is there are some of these school shooters that after the fact get arrested and go to jail, and he's come to talk to them to try and understand them and figure out why they did what they did. That's the only thing that I can think of, because like I said, if he was trying to say something like, I have become friends with the families who have been victimized by school shooters, I just feel like that's too long of a deviation for what he actually said. When you misspeak, you know, I've done that. I was recording. I was recording a promo we're doing for the opening of the IRL segments. You may have seen if you watch the Timcast IRL segments where I say, "Hey, pick up the new song." I said soon. I said pick up the new soon, available on iTunes, and then I didn't even notice. And Kellen, one of our producers, was like, Tim, you said the wrong thing. I was like, are you sure? And then I played it back and went, holy crap, I didn't even know I said that. But you can see what misspeaking is. This dude, Tim Walz, claims every time he lies, he misspoke. I was in Hong Kong when Tiananmen Square happened, and then we didn't know. I kid you not. This is the story. He said, we didn't know if we should cross the border and go in, but gosh darn it, we decided to do it. And then a local paper came out like, here's a photo of Tim Walz in Nebraska when this went down. He's lying. And he's like, I misspoke. You misspoke the whole story? How do you misspeak that? Hey, guys, I once won the lottery and then bought a Lamborghini, drove around Monaco in a race. And, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant to say that I bought a Camry and drove it home from work. That's not misspeaking. That's lying. But why would he lie about this? Donald Trump says, did Tampon Tim just say he has become friends with school shooters? He isn't even qualified to be governor, let alone vice president. Walz and Kamala do not have what it takes. Indeed. He then made this meme. Trump is going nuts with the memes, and they are golden memes. This is meme strategy 101. It's masterfully done. Trump Vance 24, not friends with school shooters. I don't get it, man. I genuinely don't understand. Jack Posobiec says, calling it right now, but Tim Walz saying he's friends with school shooters will be the number one thing remembered about this debate. It's the eating the cats of the VP debate. Yeah, but dude, Jack, I hear you, but eating the dogs and eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats was funny. And that was the song. There's like some DJ videos going viral where everyone's like dancing, eating the dogs, eating the dogs. It was a joke, and it was silly, and it was funny, and people were like, wow, that's a weird thing to say. Tim Walz saying he's friends with school shooters is an off-putting, ooh, what? I don't even know what he's getting at. Okay, but, you know, you get it. You get it. Here we go. Mediaite says nervous as hell. Tim Walz's jittery debate performance gets called out on social media. The rumors were circulating that before the debate, Tim Walz was having panic attacks. Now, the straightforward reporting we got from the news agencies was he is very nervous and jittery. That's what they're saying, right? Panic attack was maybe a bit more hyperbolic. That's something else. No question. It was painful, and it was obvious to anybody who watched that debate that Tim Walz was seriously nervous. The first question he gets asked was about Israel. Just the other day, Iran launched some 200 missiles at Israel, with many of them striking Israeli territory. They have got, what they got? David Sling. They've got the Iron Dome. I think there's another one I don't know the name of, that are missile defense systems that intercept missiles in midair, but they're not 100% effective. With this barrage from Iran, several of these missile strikes made contact. So he gets asked, if Israel retaliates against Iran in any kind of extreme measure, which we're already in war. It is full-scale war in the Middle East. I mean, Israel is at war, no question, for about a year now, almost a year now. If Israel retaliates, this could erupt far beyond what we see now. And the first question Walz gets asked is, would you support Israel if they wanted to conduct a preemptive strike on Iran? Or I think of its enemies in general. And Tim Walz just patters through it. He just doesn't even answer the question. J.D. Vance, masterclass. What does he do? He says, well, look, I will answer your question. The first thing I want to say is many people don't know me. Here's who I am. Here's how I grew up. Here's what I believe. Here's what I'm trying to do. Now, as to your question, he gives a moderate answer, and then the moderators say, no, but the question was this. J.D. Vance nails it. He says, look, Israel is going to decide for themselves what their appropriate strategy and defensive maneuvers will be. And so I think we can support them in that, but it's going to be what they decide is best for them. And that's the right move. It's the right move. They're an ally. We're not going to be involved in what they're deciding to do, and we'll support them when we can. It's a difficult choice. I don't know that I want to come out and say you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but I think it's fair to say we, the American people, don't want to get dragged into entrenched warfare in the Middle East more than we've already been over the past 30 years. And that's my entire life. But here we go. Take a look at this. Ryan James Gerdusky. J.D. Vance it's the first time a Republican VP ever received over 50% in an instant poll. And it's oversampled Democrats by 5 points. Holy crap, ladies and gentlemen. J.D. Vance, look at this. 49% to 51%. Harris was 59 to Pence's 38. Kane versus Pence. Now, Pence beat Kane in 2016 48%, but didn't crack 50. Ryan beat Biden 48%. Biden beat Palin 51%. But this is the first time Republican VP has cracked that number. Now, I got to tell you, what happened in 2008? The most votes ever received in a presidential election. Barack Obama comes storming in. Everyone's screaming and cheering. Right now, on the merits and on the argument, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance are poised to win. And you know what? I wasn't a big Vance guy. I'm pro J.D. Vance. I think he's good. I think he was the right choice because he helps Trump in the Rust Belt. These are places he needs to win. He needs PA. He needs Ohio. He needs Michigan. He needs Wisconsin. If Trump doesn't win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio, as long as he gets Pennsylvania, he can still win. Pennsylvania is the keystone state, literally. I mean, that's what it is, but it's also very important. You win PA, Kamala Harris cannot win. She has a 4% chance of winning. That's what Nate Silver was saying a while back. J.D. Vance was the right choice. But, my attitude of J.D. Vance was I called him vanilla pudding. I said he's a regular guy, straight shooter. That's why Trump picked him, but he doesn't stand out very much. Well, last night we saw what it means to truly stand out. That was of a debate performance. I have never seen anything better. I am now instantly a 10 out of 10 fan of J.D. Vance. The other day I was saying, you got RFK Jr., you got Tulsi Gabbard in the Donald Trump administration. It's going to be amazing. I am Maha, 100%. MAGA, I like, you know what I mean? Make America great again? Yeah, for sure. But I don't fly the MAGA hat or anything like that. But make America healthy again? No question, 100%. Let's go, baby. After last night, I've been saying this unity ticket was the key. Donald Trump, RFK, Tulsi. But now, don't forget J.D. Vance. That dude got up on the stage in front of this country and the world, and he proved himself in such a masterful way. And you know what I love? And I want to give credit to Tim Walz especially. I like Tim Walz. I don't like him that he's a liar. I don't like that he lied about Hong Kong. I think he's a bad guy for lying about stolen valor. That is nasty. But I want to be honest here. Tim Walz did come off as a likable guy. Don't deny this because that would underestimate your opponent. This is the advantage that Tim Walz did have on that debate stage. But he was flustered. He got caught lying, and it was bad for him. But you know what? Everyone is praising Tim Walz said several times things like, I know the senator here doesn't want these kids to get hurt. I know he's fighting that for what is right. And we all, are sad about these things when talking about schools and tragedy and violence. I want to see that. I respect it. J.D. Vance did the same thing of Tim Walz. Such beautiful moments for this country that gives me hope. When J.D. Vance said, Tim, I did not know that your 17-year-old son witnessed a shooting at a community college. I'm so sorry about that. That's awful. And Walz says, thank you. I'm like, I got warmth in my heart. The withered husk that has shriveled up inside me just had a little boom, boom, a pulse of hope. Okay, I don't like Tim Walz. I don't like Kamala Harris. I loved it when J.D. Vance said, you got a tough job, Tim. You're up here trying to excuse the failures of Kamala Harris. It's not an easy thing to do. But I think Tim Walz, calm, collected, and clear, and polite, and he praised Tim Walz where it was due. He said, I agree with the governor on this one, and I think he's trying his hardest. But Kamala has been the president for 3.5 years, and these things that he's saying may sound good, but why hasn't it gotten done? He's completely right. I was so inspired by that debate last night. I left feeling a massive positive. And I got to be honest, Tim Walz is not the right guy for the job. Kamala Harris, in my opinion, not the right woman for the job. I think Kamala is a bad person. I think Tim Walz is also a bad person in a lot of ways. But I can respect the decorum. It makes me feel good. Back in 2016, I didn't vote for Hillary or Trump. And when people asked me for 4 years, will you support Trump? I said, no, every step of the way. I said, look, decorum matters. It really does. And I know Donald Trump said this and did this. I watched what went down with Russiagate, and I was very much on the fence across the board. What I didn't like about Trump is what so many moderates didn't like about Trump, is that he was crude and crass too often. And that's not what we wanted to see in the White House. But I got to give you this. Trump has improved so much over the past 4 years. Now, don't get me wrong. He's calling him Tampon Tim, and he's doing these silly things on Truth Social and all that stuff. And so I still think Trump's a funny guy. And this is what we have to deal with right now. But I got to accept one thing. In 2020, I recognized Trump's second-term agenda was exactly what I've been asking for the whole time. And I would be a hypocrite and a liar if I denied it. I couldn't play this game, and I never will, where I'm going to be like, oh, I better just pretend like I'm not going to vote for Trump so I can try and maintain so people might think that I'm unbiased. No, I saw a message from Donald Trump about getting rid of the DEI garbage in government contracts in schools, and that is a legal requirement. And I saw him, no new wars. And I had people say, Tim, how could you say Trump's not the right guy? No new wars. I said, you're right. No questions asked. Even if I'm concerned about Trump's behavior, even if sometimes I'm like, come on, man. In the first debate when he was saying, nobody leaves my debates, and he got very defensive, I'm not a fan of that stuff. We've criticized him a lot for this. I think Kamala made the mistake in the first debate, as I've said, by not articulating her position on the economy. So Trump warrants much criticism. But in terms of the job that must be done, Trump did that job. I see J.D. Vance up there, and I am saying, thank you. Thank you, Donald Trump. This is the guy we need. And I am so inspired because I feel like J.D. Vance is the path forward. Trump was right. Smartest thing he did. J.D. Vance is 40. We saw a masterclass in public presentation, in debate, in policy. I believe in J.D. Vance. And I know that with J.D. Vance there alongside Donald Trump, Trump can be that guy, but J.D. Vance is going to be the strong, calm, collected, clear-thinking dude who helps us through this. And I'm so excited for 2028. Now, I want Trump to win. He's got to win in the next month. He's going to bring J.D. Vance, RFK Jr., Tulsi along with him. But I'm really excited for what J.D. Vance has to offer this country. And he proved himself tenfold, just masterclass. So shout out to J.D. Vance. But take a look at this. Let's get into it, right? I just showed you that CNN did a flash poll, and they're like, J.D. Vance wins, dude. Look at this. Matt McDermott says NBC News just polled their focus group of 6 undecided voters in Pennsylvania who won the debate. 5 of 6 says Tim Walz won the debate. Yo, I bust out laughing when I saw this. Come on, man. When people are like, Tim Pool's conservative and he's biased and all that stuff, I'm like, a brother, listen, okay? I watched that debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden, same as you did in June. We all watched it. And everyone, even Democrats, agreed Biden was not with it. He was gone. And we praise Donald Trump for being calm, like J.D. Vance was last night. We all watched the September 10th debate with Trump and Kamala Harris. And I can look at all the diehard Trump supporters saying, Trump won, he did this, he beat her. What did we say here at Timcast? Trump got flustered. Kamala got under his skin. That was her strategy. It didn't make Trump look good, but here's the thing. Kamala didn't take the opportunity to articulate an immigration plan and an economic plan. So CNN's flash poll after the debate showed a double-digit shift towards Trump on the economy and immigration, where it matters most. That's what people want to see answered today. So while I can certainly say there's a reason why people think Kamala won that debate, we call it the second debate, whatever, and it's because she played the cool, calm character while Trump got flustered and offended and his ego got bruised. I think it's fair to point that criticism out, and you can tell me I'm wrong. Fine. I'm saying we call it like we see it. I'm willing to criticize Trump when Trump deserves to be criticized. I still think he's the right choice. But last night, if you're going to come to me and say to my face that Tim Walz won that debate, you are lying or you didn't watch the debate. Tim Walz stuttered, was flustered, got caught in a lie that was so brutal. When they were saying, you said you went to Hong Kong during Tiananmen Square, you didn't. He was like, several times. J.D. Vance kept his cool. He stuttered a couple times, but nowhere near as much as Walz did. This stuff right here, dude, I don't believe you for 2 seconds. I'm going to throw it to our good friend, Frank Luntz. And I call him my good friend because the dude rags on me and insults me quite a bit, but sure, dude. He says, at the first commercial break, my VP debate focus group says by a 10-3 margin that J.D. Vance is winning. That's a big deal since only 5 of them were leaning toward Trump-Vance when the debate began. Final focus group vote tonight after the VP debate, 12-2 in favor of J.D. Vance. I know a lot of people were saying that Ron DeSantis was the guy because he has the better demeanor. But I got to be honest. I'm a fan of Ron DeSantis. I am. He is our best governor. There's no question about it. But on that stage in the primary, he did not bring the fire. He didn't bring the heat. In his opening announcement, it wasn't there. And so I like the guy. But I don't think he was the right choice. I see J.D. Vance's performance last night, and that was his big moment. They brought him up on stage, and he hit it out of the ballpark. I mean, I can't even begin to describe in my life, with all the political debates and everything I've followed, I have never seen a performance so masterfully done. He was a nice guy. He was a respectable guy. He was nice to Tim Walz. They shook hands. They smiled. Man, I can't even begin to describe how inspired I am and how optimistic I am for 2028. I'm telling you, my friends, we are looking at a country in serious trouble. We are looking at World War III, a hurricane disaster. We're looking at war in Eastern Europe. We're looking at the dock workers' strike. It is bad right now. Our cities are in ruin and decay. J.D. Vance says, we've got to do a better job of convincing people to trust us. And I'm just like, man, I believe in J.D. Vance. And I'm hoping that a Donald Trump victory in the next month brings about an administration that starts to clean things up. And then Donald Trump, he's an old man. He says, J.D., you were always the right choice, passes the torch off, and we know who 2028 is going to be now. Everybody was asking this. Who's it going to be? You guys heard it. And I was saying, I don't know, maybe Vivek. I wasn't even saying J.D. Vance. And then we watched that debate last night, and it's like the dude went up there and said, trust me, I'm going to show you how it's done. And now I know where 2028 is going. If Trump wins this one and we get a Trump presidency, then a J.D. Vance effective reelection, which is kind of crazy. A VP, like to get another 4 years out of this administration with Trump moving on and J.D. Vance bringing on a new VP. I believe we will have a restoration of this country. We will have something new. I believe that J.D. Vance is going to make America great again. Donald Trump, he's going to make America great again. That's his plan. And with his second term coming up, I believe he can start to do that process. And then once he does, J.D. Vance will keep America great. That's what Trump was saying in 2020. I think Vance can do that. Frank Luntz showed it right there. Okay, we know it for sure. Let me play this clip for you guys where Tim Walz is caught in this lie, because I think this exemplifies so much of what is important to us in terms of how this debate went down.
Those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just That's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Stop talking, my dude. You notice that pause right there? Let's play it again.
Said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in.
Look at that.
So I was in.
Hold on.
That's what I've said.
1,000, 2, 1,000.
So I was in.
2-second pause. And then he just tries to start explaining himself again. You know what they say? The bigger the story, the bigger the lie. Let me show you how this breaks down. Look at this. BBC Walz says he misspoke in personal story about Tiananmen Square. Oh, yeah? Take a look at this from the New York Times. Tim Walz said he was in Hong Kong in 1989 during Tiananmen. Not true. Look at this. Amy Chin. You know, she ran this repeatedly over the years. Tim Walz has said that he spent the year in China on a trip to Hong Kong. The pro-democracy protests started. And then he went into China from Hong Kong. As recently as February, Mr. Walz said in a podcast he had been in Hong Kong, then a British colony, on June 4th when Tiananmen happened, and decided to cross into mainland China to take up his teaching duties, even though many people were urging him not to. He told the same story a decade earlier. Take a look at this from the New York Times. This article from August 11th from also Amy Chin. In the summer of 1989, Tim Walz faced a difficult choice. A newly minted college grad from a small town in Nebraska, he had just turned on a stable job. He was in China. As he prepared for his move, People's Liberation Army tanks rolled into Tiananmen Square. Rumors were flying about a possible civil war in China. Many foreigners, including most American teachers, had fled the country. Should he continue with his journey into China? Hey, he decided to go in. Oh, yeah? Where's the correction? You got it at the bottom? You going to put the correction at the bottom on this article? Look at this. A correction was made on October 1st. An earlier version of this article, relying on information provided by Tim Walz's campaign, misstated when he arrived in Hong Kong before his teaching stint in China. He arrived in August, not before. You see, the original version of this, which I read just the other day, no, it made it seem as though he was there, and they got roped into this, and it was brought up by a lot of people. So you get him called out on these lies. Now, this is where it matters. Let's hear this closing statement from J.D. Vance. This was masterfully done.
But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence.
He just said threatening or hate speech. Listen to this. Listen to the interjection from Walz.
Misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government.
Threatening or hate speech.
And big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Wrong. Wrong. Fact check. I am so sick of this from these Democrats who are lying or refuse to Google search this. Brandenburg v. Ohio was the benchmark case, landmark case, whatever it's called, where they said you can yell fire in a crowded theater, that only if your speech would incite imminent lawless action is it able to be regulated or criminalized. That is to say, if you tell someone, I think if you said something like, I think a person should go do crime X. Nope, not illegal. If you said you should go right now to this place and do thing, then you've crossed the line. So being in a crowded theater and yelling fire ain't illegal. I don't recommend it. You shouldn't do that. It's kind of a dick move. But he is wrong.
That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
J.D. Vance was prepped well, and this dude is sharp as a tack. I'm impressed. You know, I was mentioning it earlier in the intro, that he was doing these things. You can rewatch the debate and you can see this. He'll say something. The one example I can remember off the top of my head is when he said, Democrats are doing this. And of course, I'm talking about Democrat leadership. He did that because the media would then come out, and they do this to me all the time. They do it to Ben Shapiro. They do it to Crowder. If you say Democrats and you're referring to specifically like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, they'll come out and say, which members of Congress have said or done this? And then you're like, no. I'm saying in a general sense that Democrat leadership, or they'll say, you really think the Democrat voters are doing these things? And it's like, dude, if I said Democrats are doing these stock trading schemes where they're making all this money, they legit write these stories where they say the implication that the Democrat voter base is illicitly, that's not what anyone's saying. But he caught that. He also had this great moment where he said that Kamala has opened up the border he was calling it the Harris-Biden administration. Well done. And said, now you got cartels bringing in drugs, using children they're being trafficked and they're being drug mules. The moderators then say, he says that Kamala is using kids as drug mules, and then Walz is like, that's not true. J.D. Vance goes, I never said Kamala is using kids as drug mules. I said the border is open because of Kamala, and cartels are using kids as drug mules. Masterfully done. So look at the CBS fact. This is another big moment. CBS fact checks J.D. Vance over migrant crisis, cuts his mic when he tries to respond. Quote, so there's an application called the CBP One app. He nails this. This is the nuance we need in our debates, my friends. I'm going to help break this down because they cut off J.D. Vance. But these are the games they're playing to lie to you, okay? Look, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm going to tell you how I want to vote. I'm not going to tell you what policies you want. I know that many of you guys, you disagree with me because I'm a more moderate. I'm liberal on some things, conservative on some things. So you guys, many of you are going to say you're pro-life, pro-abortion. I'm not going to tell you to vote the way I vote. I'm going to tell you what I think and why. What I can't stand is when they lie to you on the underlying facts so you make the wrong decision. That's worse. Look, if I was the kind of guy who's going to come out and say Trump has to win, you all must vote Trump. Don't vote Democrat. You have to do this. You've got to vote the way I demand it. I could be that guy. I'm more so I hope you make the right choice, but really you got to go out and vote for what you believe in. If it's libertarian, I guess you're voting libertarian, but I think Trump should win. That's how I want to phrase it. What if instead I said, well, Kamala Harris has got Project 2025 where she's going to round up your kids and put them on the moon. Obviously I'm making a joke about the extreme, the egregious lies they're stating. But the point is they will give you false information so you feel compelled to go the wrong way. I'll give you to the best of my ability what is true and correct, and then you decide if you're for it. Take a look at this clip.
Very protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
No, they haven't.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because
this was the worst moment for the moderators. I got to give him credit for calling out Tim Walz on Hong Kong and pressuring him, saying, answer the question. Well done. But this was wrong, and it showed their bias. What happens is you got J.D. Vance explaining that you're getting 20,000 migrants in Springfield, Ohio, and a lot of people are upset. And by the way, J.D. Vance, I'm going to break down masterclass. So Tim Walz says, we can't blame immigrants for this. We have to do these things, blah, blah, blah. And J.D. Vance, he says, I agree with the governor. We don't want to blame immigrants. It's the illegal aliens. And you know why that was masterfully done? Because the Democrats try to constantly conflate illegal immigrants and migrants and immigrants. I love immigrants. I love migrants. I want America to bring as many as possible in, but it's got to be done legally through a process where we can ensure assimilation and help them thrive in this country. You can't just open up the border and say, everybody do whatever you want, because now we get homeless tents everywhere, right? So what happens is, after he makes this point, she's like, I think it was after this point, she says, just to clarify, the migrants that are in Ohio are legal migrants. Moving on. And then he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You said there wasn't going to be any fact checking, but if you want to do that, I'm going to point this out. Let me break it down for you because they cut him off. Okay. You heard JD Vance say it. He pretty much nailed it. But to reiterate, there is an app you can download, and an individual outside of the United States illegally crosses our border, enters this country, and goes wherever they want. They download this app and they can apply while already having broken our laws for temporary protected status. That's what is happening. For her to say that's the legal process, we are asking that before people just come in, we vet them. They fill out the paperwork. We know who they are and why they would like to come in. This idea that you would come into my house through my broken window and then go in my room and scream, just let me stay for a little bit. And my roommates are like, well, he is asking. It's like, no, dude, he already broke in, okay? There's people at the door, they're knocking, they want to come in. We don't have rooms for everybody. We don't have food for everybody. We want to make sure that we're doing this right. But could you imagine in your house letting 5 people come and live with you? You got no room for it. Imagine if they broke in, were sleeping in your house, and then said, hey, look, it's going to be hard to kick us out. You might as well let us stay. That's the point that JD Vance is making, and they cut him off over this. But I'll give a shout out to Breitbart. Fact check. Tim Walz falsely claims Biden-Harris migrant mobile app has been in the book since 1990. No, it's just ridiculous. The temporary protected status argument, or the fact that you could apply for parole and things, that okay, let's break that down. But the idea that you could pull up a mobile app and of your own volition, isolated from the border guards and from the government, just fill out an app and they say, fine, that is unprecedented. So here we are, my friends. There's so many great memes. And we'll start to wind this down before we jump into the next story, because the big factor here is Trump's response. What's coming up next is Trump's response on Israel, Iran, and where we're going with this election. But I'm gonna shout out Trump's memes. Trump was on fire with the memes. Okay, he shows it's Obama, Biden, Kamala, and then Walz, and it says, "I need a VP dumber than me," and Obama, and then it shows Biden. Then Biden says, "I need a VP dumber than me," and it shows Harris, and it says, "I need a VP dumber than me," and then it shows Walz. Donald Trump, he's got the memes. Now, he did respond, and I want to shout out this response. He says, everyone know, he responded on the abortion issue. Everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it's up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters. Like Ronald Reagan before me, I fully support the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I do not support the Democrats' radical position of late-term abortion, like, as an example, in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month, or in case there's any question, the possibility of execution of the baby after birth. Thank you for attention on this matter. I was swayed. Absolutely. When JD Vance gave his explanation on abortion, I'm a JD Vance fan. I'm a JD Vance voter. He said, we want to help families. He says, I know women who got abortions because they felt like they would not be able to support a family and it wasn't going to work. And that is a problem. So we need to get people to trust us again and help them like set up pro-family policies and childcare and things like this. And I thought it was a good response. But he said, you can't just have a one-size-fits-all on this. There's a big country. And we're very divided. And California views it one way and Georgia another. And Tim Walz's argument is, yeah, well, women suffered in Georgia. Listen, it's bad when everyone does. It's suffering is no good. But for you to impose your will over a Democratic majority in a state is wrong. If Georgia as a state says we're going to set the terms of how we handle this in this way, you respect it unless or until it steps into certain legally defined and constitutionally defined, judicially reviewed precedent. That is to say, if a state was like, well, we want slavery, sorry, we have amendments for that. Okay, the issue of abortion has not been adjudicated at such a high level. In fact, the Supreme Court said the states can run their own laws on this one. 9th and 10th Amendment. I agree with JD Vance. I do. And I lean more towards the look, I got to be honest. I look at Europe and they've got some 8 to 10 weeks is your window for abortion. And then you've got and that's it. In the United States, some places, we have the states with no restrictions at all. It's the most unrestricted we've seen in the world. So I don't know why people think Europe's doing it wrong. But I tend to lean more towards the classical Democrat, which was actually classical, but the 90s Democrat of, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15 weeks. And It shouldn't be as contraception. It used to be safe, legal, and rare, but I have lost all faith that they're going to manage this properly. Not that I'm going to get into the big abortion debate right now, but I will tell you this, my friends. I respect J.D. Vance's position on this one. He has deeply inspired me, and I'm looking forward to 2028. I genuinely am. I want to see Trump-Vance win. I want to see what they can do to help clean this country up, bring peace to the Middle East, bring peace to Eastern Europe, bring our jobs back. J.D. Vance nailed it. And I feel really good that if Trump were to win right now, we know what our 2028 path is going to be. It's going to be a 44-year-old J.D. Vance performing a masterclass with 4 years of experience in a White House administration saying, I know how to do it, and I will prove it to you. And then 2028, he's going to say, I've done it alongside Donald Trump, and we're going to do it again, baby. I'm stoked. I'm stoked, man. Border Patrol Union just effectively endorsed Trump. They say the border experts want real Donald Trump to be the president, so the border can be secured without compromise. Only the drug cartels and Democrats want an open border. That's what border czar Harris has given to them and will continue to do in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's I'll wrap it up there. Otherwise, I'm going to rant for 20 years on this. But we do have more big news here, which is Trump's response on Iran and the Biden-Harris administration bringing about World War III. So this is huge. And the ramifications for, we've got two big stories right now. We've got three technically. But I'm going to October surprise the third segment here. The second one is, with the debate just happening, we're going to see, in my opinion, a boost for Donald Trump. That being said, not a lot of people are super interested in VP debates, right? But I still think it's going to be a massive boost for Trump because Vance, he's going to say to all these people, I know you may not like Trump, but trust me, I'm here and I got your back. And people are going to say yes. But the next segment is, how is the strike on Israel from Iran going to affect the voter base? And I hate to break it to a lot of people who are very much anti-Israel, critical of Israel. I got the polls. In general, America supports Israel, at least right now. It's not massive margins, but it is around 60 or so % in various, with various, let's just say the way they ask the question, you can get varying results. But typically Americans do support Israel, and this is going to have a huge impact. Of course, we've got the story of Doug Emhoff apparently like beating up his past girlfriend or something. Democrats saying they want to physically, I'm not kidding, on MSNBC, I think it was Joy Reid, but I'll pull the clip up, saying Democrats want to see someone beat Trump, beat him physically. I mean, this is nuts. And then the dock workers. This union stuff is going to impact you. It's going to cost you money. We'll get into all that. But right now, we're going to grab your super chat. So my friends, make sure you head over to timcast.com. Click join us, become a member to support our work directly. Subscribe to this channel right now if you haven't already. Share the show. Yo, we are heavily censored on this channel. YouTube is always burying this channel, and we are doing our best, but they want to bury it. We're not going to let them. If everybody watching right now shared the URL to this video with all their friends and everywhere, we'd be the biggest news show in the morning. I mean it. 36,000 shares on a video is kind of a big deal. So I appreciate you guys watching, but y'all should also smash that like button because that also really does help. If we instantly jumped up 36,000 likes, we'd probably be the biggest live stream on YouTube right now. So 1 like equals 1. Let's write it in. Fight, fight, fight again. We'll get that rolling and read your super chats before jumping into the next segment. Also, if you guys would, buy Coming Home, our new song by Timcast, on iTunes to support our work and send a message that we care about these things. I hope you like the song. I really do. And if you do like it, buy it for 99 cents. Prove that we can make art and culture and that it matters and the message is important. All of these songs out there are like, you know, big butts and getting drunk and stuff. Let's celebrate music that tries to send that message in, and that's what we try to do. All right, let's go. We got Common Sense Fishing saying, new Republican attack ad. Hi, I'm Tim Walz. And I'm a knucklehead, Kamala cackling. We must be unburdened by what has been. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. When Tim Walz was called out for lying about being in Hong Kong and Tiananmen, he said, well, I'm a knucklehead sometimes. Guys, Tim Walz was likable. I'm looking at Twitter. I'm looking at, I come from a world of post-liberal, disaffected liberals. Conservatives are going to rag on Walz all day, but don't underestimate him, okay? He did still get, 49% in that poll? And you might say that's liberal bias, whatever it may be. Sure, but there were moderates who saw that, and they said he may have been flustered and Vance may have been better, but Walz was a nice guy. that did play well for him, despite him being a liar. And now Kamala Harris, I love the stolen McValor because she claimed that she worked at McDonald's when she didn't. Rusty Shackelford says, with the port strike, you think it'll trigger the mass casualty event government is preparing for, or they might put illegals to work keeping the ports open? I don't know about either of those. Look, the longshoreman union president said, I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. And I'm just like, I like this guy. I mean, I'm really worried about the cost of goods and all that stuff, but you got to give it to him. The dude stood strong, and those are the balls that we need to see in this country again. He says, my guys deserve it. You guys want to automate our jobs out? I will cripple you, and you don't even know what that means. And I'm just like, dang, man. If I was in that union, I'd be like, I'd vote for that guy. I love it. But Trump's like that, right? All right, let's go. Excuse me. Ricky Fahar says, thanks for the work you do, Tim, on building culture. I'd like to shout out a friend, X Marvel, I believe, doing a project on a MAGA Man comic. Search for Jerry Judge Hines MAGA Man and find it. That's great. You know what's really funny? When I grew up, I listened to a lot of punk rock. And there's this song by Propaganda called Stick the Flag Up Your... And it's a great song. I mean, it's a well-crafted song with an interesting message. And there's a bunch of lines in it that I really do respect. But there's so much now that as I've gotten older, I think I was misled and they were wrong and they didn't understand this. In the song, they say things like, I question the intentions of the Boy Scouts chanting war. And that's a side of freedom, son. You're free to say no more. I've never been fans of this like interventionist policy and nation building that meant so much to me. And there's a great line in the song, Bette Midler, when I was in sainthood, romanticized murder for morale. I'm like, that was when I was a kid, I heard that song. And that's what was pushing me into punk rock, challenging this bloodthirsty war machine. But then he says, F the troops. He says, burn the flag, stick it up. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that message don't resonate. Because so much of it I get. They're chanting war, they're warmongers, but no. That's not what America is. It was taken over by evil people. Because I got to be honest, all that it took for this evil to come in and transform this nation was that good men did nothing. And maybe it was 1913. But I don't say F the troops. I love the troops. I don't say burn the flag. I say cherish and protect the flag. But you're not wrong when these celebrities chant war and demand it and people march in lockstep. What we need is not burning the flag and insulting this country. That's what they wanted the whole time, to burn it down. What we want is to praise the flag and what this country stood for and restore it to what its values represent as we question those who chant war. I was just listening to that song this morning, thinking about it, what it meant to be punk and when I was a kid and what they were saying. And I'm like, while we were upset about war and intervention, we followed this angry message towards burning the flag and criticizing America when, in fact, it was this disgusting uniparty, neocon, neolib war machine that was infecting our country. And we will get rid of this ideology, this ideology of warmongering, interventionist, nation-building garbage will be eradicated with the populist movement, both left and right. And while I'll criticize the left populists on a lot of their policies, the one thing we come together on is this war machine needs to be stopped. And I think Donald Trump is the guy to do it. And the left populists ain't going to like it, but they got to admit, no new wars under Donald Trump. A lot of wars were still going on. And Trump deserves criticism. Nobody's perfect. But this is the path forward. So when I think about that song, and he says, I can burn your flag whenever I please and all that stuff, I'm like, Donald Trump hugs the flag and promises we're going to end these wars. You don't need to be enemies. You don't need to say F you and the troops and all that stuff. No. We can support all the good, brave men and women who want to serve this country and criticize the evil that has captured us and pushed us into this disgusting turn of events with Ukraine, with the expansion of conflict in the Middle East, all that stuff. The polls show it. People do not want foreign intervention. They do every day. All right, anyway. Nathan Ritchie says, do you see a Vance Vivek ticket in the future? I mean, that's a strong possibility. Double V, right? Win. You can put the two V's together. Victory. Vance Vivek. It's possible. I don't know what Vivek does, though. I don't know where Vivek goes. But J.D. Vance and Vivek are like, man. I say this. I think Vivek's the smartest guy in politics right now. He comes in the past couple of years. He inspired and he impressed me. Vivek is incredible. J.D. Vance just proved himself in a way I did not expect. I thought he was going to be, I don't know, like I said, vanilla pudding. Instead, masterclass like I've never seen. And he's 40. Let's go, man. I'm a fan. It was polite. It was calm. It was collected. Let's restore this country. J.D. Vance has given me a lot more hope. All right. Money Shot Haas says, UPS hasn't had a contract in over 500 days now. USPS, sorry. SOBs are dragging their feet and we are hurting and we can't strike because it's in our contract. That's why I don't like this contract stuff. That's my problem with unions. You know, back in the day, what was a union? It was just the workers being like, I'm out, I'm leaving. Let's all leave right now. I can't fire all of us. Now it's like, you can't do that. It would be against the law. I don't like it. Let's go. Musty says, I don't know what that means, so I'm not going to read it. Even though we don't see eye to eye on politics, I respect what you do here, and I want to see more of it. Your show helps me stay well informed on both sides. Well, I really do appreciate it. What I can say, however, is I genuinely believe that if you are on the quote-unquote right, you are more likely to be correct. Why? I'm politically moderate. I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. Only in around August of 2020, when Trump dropped that second-term agenda, did I say, I'm going to vote for this. I've been critical of Trump where he deserves to be criticized, but I recognize no new wars is a dream come true. His current administration, it's fantastic. But I don't know how I reconcile this with the left when Tim Walz is lying about his service record. I mean, what is J.D. Vance lied about? Nothing. They insult him, they call him weird, and they make up insane things because there's nothing there. He's just a normal guy. He's a successful American dream guy, and I respect it. There's the Burisma scandal, the impeachment, Ukraine, all of these things. The left doesn't even know what happened. I mean, I'm still telling friends, I'm like, Donald Trump never said very fine people. That was a whole hoax. He didn't say that Nazis were fine people. He condemned them. They're like, really? And I'm like, it is wild to me that I have to explain the Ahmaud Arbery case and the George Floyd case to people because they don't understand. They say, well, wasn't the Ahmaud Arbery where the jogger was killed by those white guys who chased him down? And I'm like, no. It was the guy who was a suspect in a felony burglary. The police had gone door to door with pictures of him saying, we're looking for this guy. And the McMichaels were like, hey, someone spotted him. They called the police and then they flanked him. They went in front of him around the block. Fight breaks out. Ahmaud Arbery loses his life. It's a tragedy. But I'm like, say what you will about however that went down. But the guy who filmed it went to prison. People don't know this. And I had Cenk Uygur on the Culture War show last year. And what did he say? He said that was the jogger who was killed. And that's just not true. Just watch the trial. It was all on video. It's insane to me that people believe these things. You want to talk about both sides? Dude, I don't care about sides. I care about what's correct. Okay? So when J.D. Vance says the CBP won up and they shut him down, they are misleading you. They're saying these are legal immigrants. It's like they entered illegally and then applied on an app for temporary status. That is unfair to say it's the same as a person who applied for a green card or for residency and came on a legitimate visa. It's very different. It's the facilitation of illegal immigration. Epic Flounder says, can we acknowledge she accused the right of stigmatizing mental health while boasting about his red flag laws? The audacity. Agreed. Absolutely. Gremlin says, you notice every time Vance put down China, Walz got real mad and turned red in the face. He likes China, man. He really does. He really does. I was told that when the original title of this show was Vance crushes Walz. And I was told I got to get with the Gen Z and use the word cooked. He cooked them. So I changed it. I thought it was funny. All right. Christo Bruin says, JD did such a good job. I'm pretty sure Mr. Walz is voting Trump. Yo, there was one moment where JD Vance was talking about childcare plans and Tim Walz was looking at him and going like, yeah, I like this. And he never rebutted. He just was like, that was pretty good. But that's what I'm telling you, that's why people like Tim Walz. He was a likable guy. They like to see him. It feels honest. I mean, no one goes up on stage and says everything said is wrong. That's insane. I disagree no matter what. No. J.D. Vance and Tim Walz both were polite and kind to each other. J.D. Vance says, I know the governor is trying to solve these problems and I respect it. Of course, he wants America to be better, but he's trying to defend the policies of Kamala Harris, who's been in for 3.5 years, and she hasn't done it. Excellent response. And Tim Walz says, I know J.D. Vance doesn't want these kids to get hurt. I know he's trying as well, but I just think his policies. And I said, I respect that. But Tim Walz is wrong. He's wrong on the facts. And that's the challenge we face. You know what, man? They called it Midwestern kindness, how Tim Walz and J.D. Vance treated each other on that stage. And that is what America's supposed to be. So I do respect that tremendously. I hope that's where we go. And Biden, Kamala, I hope they're gone. And we get Trump in 4 more years. And I know a lot of people say, oh, but he's a rough and tumble guy, he's crass. Yeah, but J.D. Vance proved himself and he's next in line. So we're gonna pull ourselves out of this tailspin and this country will be great again. Peter Gohawk says Joe Rogan and Tim Pool should be the next moderators for the next debate. And sure, let's do it on CNN. We need some real questions asked and answered. Indeed. In If Only the World. You know, I love when Ian, for those that don't know, on Timcast IRL, frequent guest on the show, I guess, used to co-host it. When he said, he'll come to me and be like, hey, you got to get Brad Pitt on the show. And I'm just like, Ian, what? And he's like, yeah, we should get Brad Pitt. And I'm like, Ian, we're not getting Brad Pitt on the show. Why are you saying this to me? And then I remember he was like, we're going to get Hassan on the show by June. That was last year. Never happened. Hassan Piker. And I'm just like, bro, come on. But I do have some other friends. They're like, have you ever considered getting Tom Cruise? And I'm like, what? You know, I had someone say, you know what you should do? You should get Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson on the show. And I'm like, are you crazy? I was like, we have a hard enough time booking Jordan Peterson to get Joe and Jordan on the same time. But, you know, look, they can come on whenever they want. Everybody's got their own shows, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another big epic story here. This is dangerous stuff. Let's pull it up. We got this story from Politico. Trump slams Harris on Iran, says Biden administration is leading us to the brink of World War III. It was his latest instance of using current events to slam the vice president just one day after turning a visit to a community ravaged by Hurricane Helene into a political jab. I don't respect the writing, Politico. Trump is not wrong. We are looking at World War III. Every day it's getting worse. Some in Europe are already saying we are there. Now, the big picture here, my friends, is not so much to talk about foreign policy, because I know you're interested in the election. And the question is, how will this impact November? We are a month out from this election. Early voting has already begun. And PA, it's a swing state. Y'all need to go out there. You got to vote. You got to do the groundwork. The question is this. Just yesterday, Israel got slammed by around 200 missiles. Much of their defense system intercepted. Some of these Iranian missiles made contact, slamming into Israel. I don't believe anyone was hurt. So they're saying it was largely a failure, but they still launched a missile strike on Israel. Israel's invaded Lebanon. This conflict is getting out of hand. Where is our leadership? Donald Trump is right to criticize them. I believe under a Trump administration, we would not be seeing this because people fear Donald Trump. Yeah, Tim Walz said he's fickle. Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of scary. You can say something like, will Trump do it? Won't? I don't know. He could flip on a dime. He could say, you know what? Peace is off. You've crossed the line. And then what do we deal with? I mean, Trump famously was sending in a retaliatory strike on Iran and then stopped at the last minute and said, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't think 500 people should die because they shot down a drone. And it was like, whew, you never know what he's going to do, good or bad. And I think he made a lot of good moves. But the big question is right now is how will Israel affect the election? And I'm going to show you the polls. I genuinely believe, much to the chagrin of many people, many in this country who are critical of Israel or outright anti-Israel, the majority of this country supports Israel. And you may disagree with that. And many say it's because of propaganda. It's because of AIPAC, whatever that may be. But I'm going to show you the polls and we're going to talk about political ramifications. From Politico. Former President Donald Trump used Iran's missile attack on Israel to slam Vice President Harris, blasting her and Joe Biden as grossly incompetent and threatening that they are leading us to the brink of World War III. Quote, the two incompetent people running our country, and I don't think they're even running it, are leading us to the brink of World War III, a war like no other. Trump told a raucous crowd in Wanakee, Wisconsin. Wanakee? How do you say that? Claiming without evidence the nation's first and second in command are not, in fact, in charge of the administration. What is this writing? What do you He's being facetious. He's being critical by saying they're not even doing their jobs. It's just such ridiculous fake news. Just these journalists, man. I can write. I'll tell you what he's saying. Okay. They're saying without evidence, they're not actually in charge of the administration. What? When Trump said Hillary acid washed her server, NBC News is like, false. She didn't use a corrosive substance on her computer. She used a program. It's like no one genuinely thought that's what Trump meant. I mean, I have to wonder if this is all just written by AI, if like the Democratic Party is just a robot who can't understand human emotion. Harris's campaign spokesperson, Morgan Finkelstein, declined to comment. During the speech, advertised as focusing on economics and manufacturing, Trump repeatedly threatened that the evolving situation in the Middle East could result in devastating global war and blamed Iran's attack on Biden and Harris, whom he said had made the U.S. adversary very rich in a very short period. Trump also repeated a misleading claim about a September 2023 prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Iran, which saw the two countries swap detainees in Qatar on the eve of that year's United Nations General Assembly. Quote, if they have somebody who was kidnapped, it's always $6 billion. Whoever heard of that, Trump said. Somebody gets like $4,000. One of the conditions of the exchange was that the U.S. would unfreeze $6 billion in frozen Iranian assets that were accrued as a result of oil sales to South Korea that occurred at a time when sanctions against Tehran were lifted. Trump said on Tuesday that money flooded Iran with American cash, allowing it to fund its militant U.S.-designated terrorist proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah. But the Biden administration has defended that provision of the deal in the face of Republican attacks, arguing it did not constitute the U.S. giving Iran $6 billion for the use of weapons. Officials at the time noted that the assets were held in a monitored account and could only be used to purchase food and medicine with those funds. A ridiculous and absurd notion. Let me break it down for you. We did not in the United States give Iran $6 billion. A lot of Republicans were saying that not the case. $6 billion in oil sales were frozen. The U.S. unfroze the $6 billion. It is true, as far as I know, that they said, yes, but you can only use it for general supplies, medicine. But let's not be stupid here, okay? Let's say that I got $100 to my name and I got to buy food every day to eat. And I do. Then you come to me and say, I'm going to give you $100 that, we're going to put another $100 in your account, but you can only use that for food. I then say, okay, well, that $100 I already had, I can do whatever I want with. Get it? If you unfreeze $6 billion, their food budget on the other side goes to zero. They say, okay, we're cleared. Let's say Iran has $1 billion in cash and they're struggling to buy food. You give them $6 billion for food, they got $1 billion clean to do whatever they want with. So it's no surprise now we're seeing Lebanon launching missile barrage after missile barrage. Hezbollah is. Hamas launching their attack, and now Iran launching their attacks. They got money to do it. Well, let's talk about where we're at. I'm not a big fan of Israel's policies. I'm not a big fan of our involvement with Israel, but I think the struggle we have here is most Americans support Israel. Most members of Congress do. A lot of people don't like it. I don't know what to tell you, but Israel is not like Ukraine. It's not like Afghanistan. If we are to withdraw in the immediate, like we did with Afghanistan, we are talking about massive escalation of war. I don't have any good answers for you, my friends, but that is true. Israel vows to target Iran's oil within days in revenge for missile barrage, as Tehran threatens to strike the entire infrastructure of Netanyahu's insane regime and warns U.S. not to intervene amid mounting World War III fears. Israel's military is preparing a significant retaliation to a shocking attack by Iran. Reports suggest Israel, which has vowed to strike powerfully in response to Iran, could go after the country's oil facilities. Former Israeli intelligence official and regional analyst Avi Melamed told Mail Online the Iranian strike was likely to provoke a significant counterstrike, warning that Israel's response this time will likely be broader and less restrained than it was in the wake of Iran's unprecedented direct strike in April. But Iran's Armed Forces Joint Chief of Staff, General Mohammad Bagheri, said this morning that the Revolutionary Guard was prepared both defensively and offensively to repeat its missile attack with multiplied intensity should Israel seek retribution. Quote, if the Zionist regime that has gone insane is not contained by America and Europe and intends to continue such crimes or do anything against our sovereignty or territorial integrity, tonight's operation will be repeated with much higher magnitude, and we will hit all of their infrastructure. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, I'm pronouncing that wrong for sure, also declared that Tehran has warned the U.S. to withdraw from this matter and not to intervene. But the U.S. has vowed to stand with its regional ally Israel, with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan telling reporters at the White House, we have made clear that there will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make the case. Now, let's talk about where this leads us politically. Is the attack yesterday going to result in a shift in favor of Donald Trump? The answer is yes. First, I've already seen many people say that this is a disgrace. This was the straw breaking the camel's back. I'm surprised, too, because I'd have thought that the anti-Israel protests would have got many of these pro-Israel Democrats and moderates to line up behind the Republicans. We saw these big protests at universities where you get, pro-Palestine and even pro-Hamas. I know people don't want to believe it, but it's true. Pro-Hamas protesters. Well, I think the reality is this. There are a lot of people who support Israel, and they don't care that people are protesting it. They don't care that Democrats feel that way, or they genuinely believe that the Democrats were still going to do the right thing regardless of the activist base. I saw a handful of tweets the other day where after the rockets, you can see in video the missiles striking Israeli territory, hitting, blowing up. I saw angry tweets from people saying this is the final straw. I can't believe the Biden administration is allowing this. Iran is attacking our allies. I don't want to be involved in foreign conflict. I want America to be safe, secure. I want our workers to get what they need. We've got a hurricane disaster zone across the South right now. North Carolina and Georgia are suffering. Why are we sending hundreds of billions overseas to Ukraine, billions to Israel, to Taiwan, to all these countries, Sudan, Afghanistan, etc.? Our own people, our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters are suffering right now. It grinds my gears. I recognize that Israel's not Ukraine. I say Ukraine, I don't care. You're not. Look, why? Israel's a little different. Israel's a longstanding ally, and the catastrophe and escalation in the Middle East is terrifying as to what would happen if we do an immediate, we cut them off completely. I would be in favor of over a period of time figuring out how we withdraw our funding to Israel. They're allowed to maintain their presence without being. Take a look at this. We've got Pew Research. Take a look at this. We've got Pew Research. Majority in U.S. say Israel has valid reasons for fighting. Fewer say the same about Hamas. 57% express some sympathy for both Israelis and Palestinians. Check this out. There's a lot of polls we can break down on this one, but take a look at this. Americans' view of how Israel and Hamas are fighting. Okay, why are they fighting? The question is, Israel's reasons for fighting Hamas are, we have 58% saying somewhat valid or completely valid. Hamas's reasons for fighting Israel are, and you've got a larger percentage, you've only got 22% saying valid, which is still kind of wild, but you end up with 49% saying not at all valid or not too valid, which is kind of a weird way to explain it. The way Israel is carrying out its response to the October 7th attack is, the majority say somewhat acceptable or completely acceptable. That's wild. That we're looking at 38%. While you still, actually, it's tied, it looks like. You've got a split 38-38. So forgive me, I was incorrect. But take a look at this. The way Hamas carried out the October 7th attack was only 4% agree with Hamas. And I can't believe that number is that high. So what we can see is clear. You've got people saying, I don't like Israel's military operations, how they're handling it, but it's split down the middle. But most people are like, but they're right to do something. And this is from back in March. I got more for you, my friends, and I know a lot of people don't like it. From the Melman Group, they said 62% of voters have a favorable view of Israel, while just 24% have an unfavorable opinion. Nearly identical to the 62% favorable, 25% unfavorable recorded in December of 2023. Voters in 7 battleground states, this is from August of 2024, are even more positive, with 67% expressing favorable views of Israel and just 17% unfavorable. However, look at this. A large majority reject cuts in security assistance for Israel. The question is, do you think the security assistance that the U.S. provides to Israel for self-defense should be increased, decreased, or kept at its current level? 60% either said keep it the same or increase it. 23% said decrease. 17% said they don't know. Here's a story from the Jerusalem Post from 2023. This is before October 7th. It's fascinating. Americans support Israel despite disapproval of Netanyahu's government. A 2-year study from Pew Research on American sentiments towards Israel has been released with some interesting outcomes. They say Americans have a generally positive view towards Israel. Again, this is before the Hamas October 7th massacre. In the study conducted during 2022 and 23, there was some difference of opinion depending on the age group and affiliation of the 2022 survey. Americans over 65 have a 69% favorable view of Israel compared to 49% between age 30 and 49, which drops to 41% in the under 30 age bracket. Republicans are at 71%, Democrats were at 44%. Now that was interesting, right? October 7th happens. American support for Israel soars after Hamas slaughter. It does look like, as the older generation begins to move on, the U.S. support for Israel will wane. But as of right now, the most important voting bloc being older voters, I tell you this, 2-1, Americans support Israel. I am not telling you to. I am not saying that Israel is good or better otherwise. This is not a point about what you think about Israel. It's a point about the American view of it and what that translates to politically. I'm in West Virginia. West Virginia News reports. West Virginia congressional representatives reiterate support for Israel amid attack from Iran. This is from just yesterday. In fact, Riley Moore, who we're friends, he skateboards here. He's been here a couple times. He's skated at some of our parks. We're big fans as well. He's going to be representing us. And we know he's going to do right by this country. And he said he supports Israel. Yeah, outright. And I got to tell you, a lot of people, you've got to stop acting like you're right about everything on this one, okay? You're allowed to not like Israel, please. Once again, people act like because I'm saying this, I'm telling them they're not allowed to criticize a country or whatever. That's absurd. But I tell people this. I was talking to someone just this past weekend, and I said, look, AIPAC has influence because people like Israel. Now, it could be inverse. AIPAC's lobbying has resulted in more support for Israel. That's the point. But their lobbying would not be effective unless there was support for Israel in the first place. There are a lot of PACs that are deeply unpopular. That's just a reality. And there's a lot of them with massive resources. I'm not saying AIPAC is a tiny influence. They're massive. They're powerful. But people in this country support it. And you know what I hear? Oh, well, people don't really support. If they really knew, well, maybe that's the case, man. But all that matters is this. 2-1, people are going to vote to support Israel. And so when you see these things, it matters. And that's why the Democrats are in trouble. Because many of them don't like Israel. They don't support Israel. But Jewish voters in the United States, they tend to vote Democrat. They're going to probably start walking away from the Democratic Party because, well, Jewish voters like Israel. And it's not even a question overtly about whether you want Israel to be a sovereign Jewish state or Zionism or anything like that. It's that run-of-the-mill Americans are like, I don't know, we've been allies for generations. We shouldn't just leave them to get flattened. And it's that simple. I certainly think criticism of any country and their military operations are always allowed. And Israel ain't no saint when it comes to the conflict that's happening in Gaza and the settlements in the West Bank. But the fact of the matter is, while we can have those conversations, if you walk down the street in a major city or in this country, you're going to find typically 2-1 people are going to say, yeah, we should support Israel. In fact, a large portion wanting to increase, 23% saying they want to increase support to Israel. Now, with all that being said, once again, comment about what your criticisms of Israel are. I don't care. I'm not telling you not to have those criticisms. I know people are really passionate about this, but you should understand that with this attack on Israel, support for Trump is likely going to improve. People who are Democrats or moderates are looking at this, and 2-1, they're going to say, I've had enough. Now, the people who don't like Israel, probably going to vote Democrat for obvious reasons. And the moderates who are like, either diehard Zionist or, Jewish Democrats, I think you're going to see a shift towards Trump. And that's why Trump is attacking the Harris-Biden administration on this issue, because it matters to people. People like the country. For whatever reason, I don't know, for whatever reason, call it whatever you want, but it's true. Now, my concern beyond this is not so much, I know, look, people are going to vote for Donald Trump. It's going to sway people for sure. And this gives Republicans a boon. I'm concerned about World War III. I don't care about, in the long term, these other countries. I'm not Israel, okay? You and I, we're Americans. Some of you may be in other countries. I get it. But we're here in America. I want my border secure. I want families to make it. I want, J.D. Vance told this story last night on the debate stage, that he knew a woman who got an abortion because she felt she was in an abusive relationship and felt like she could not properly raise a child and wouldn't have the support she needed. I want that support to exist. I want people to know you don't need to have an abortion. You can have those children. You will have a family, and we will make America great. That's what I want to happen. And I wonder why it is that right now, when there's these terrifying stories, man, J.D. Vance mentioned this too. Grandparents with their 6-year-old on a rooftop in the floods and the roof collapses. The last photo ever seen of them. That shouldn't be happening. But we put $200 billion in developing weapons and strategies and military and PMCs for Ukraine. Man, now I understand that when we spend $250 billion, largely it's into the U.S. economy. Weapons manufacturing, resources, supplies. But we could do the same thing in protecting our home. And it's just laughably absurd that we're having this conversation. That right now, North Carolina, I'm seeing these videos. What people don't understand about these floods, when the water goes down, there's 2 feet of mud. I saw a photo of a truck, and it's just buried in 2 feet of mud because the floodwaters come in. The dirt and the particulates are dispersed by the water. And then as the water drains, the vehicles sink down. And then the particulates come together and form this mud encasing homes and vehicles, and it's buried. We need help for the people in North Carolina and Georgia. Trump went down there. I respect it. Kamala and Biden did not. I wish they would. I hate to criticize them on this matter because I just want people to get the help they need. But come on, guys. They did not go down. I know they're having phone calls. I know they're signing paperwork. I know they're allocating funds. But they should be there to help properly manage this and assuage people's fears. Let them know that there's a reason why we're doing these jobs. There's a reason why we have these politicians in office, and they're going to be there for you when you need it most. Instead, it's Ukraine. Instead, it's Israel. And even having this conversation about Israel breaks my heart because we should be having a bigger conversation about how the hurricane's going to impact the election. But I know people are doing their best outside of all of that to help those in need in these disaster zones. Helene was a flash that people didn't see coming, and the damage, it hooked around and it slammed into the East Coast, and a lot of people didn't see it coming. I just wish that $250 billion that we've dumped in Ukraine went to, I don't know, preparing for disasters in the United States, securing our border. Heck, make public works jobs. I'm not a big fan of that in the long run, but at $250 billion, can we say, I don't know, how about we fix our roads? How about we create high-speed rail? How about we give child tax credits? Here's my proposal. Once you have 3 kids, if you have 3 kids and you're married, as long as you're married, no income tax. 0. Yeah, you're going to pay property tax and you're going to pay sales tax and all that, but no income tax. Keep all that money. Pay for your kids. We're going to make America better off, right? I hope for the best. I am worried about what happens with the escalation of this conflict. It's going to impact the election. So be prepared for as bad as this could get, my friends. And I hope and I pray that a Trump administration can find peace. Because looking at how things are going right now, I don't see it. I really don't. So I wish the best for everybody. Stay tuned. We got more coming. Smash the like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with all your friends. You know, look, YouTube buries this morning show, and it's rough. But if everybody who watched shared this show, we'd be the biggest news show on YouTube. And if you appreciate the work that we do, even if you don't always agree, please consider sharing the show, subscribing to this channel. Please consider becoming a member at Timcast.com because that's the only way we sustain and maintain all of this. And you can pick up our new song, Coming Home. GetComingHome.com. Please buy the song on iTunes. We'll send a message to Hollywood, to the entertainment industry, that songs with meaning matter and that people care about what's happening in this country. Thanks for hanging out. For everybody else, we're going to go to your Super Chats now. Next segment will be up at 4 p.m. All right, everybody. The next segment we got is a bit more scandalous. Look at this. What is this? Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, he beat his ex-girlfriend for flirting with another man in a booze-fueled assault? This is is this real? They say it's true. We're going to talk about this story in a minute, but we are going to grab your Super Chats. Make sure we can bring you guys in the conversation. So again, everybody watching right now, smash that like button. It'd be cool. I know we get like 200 to 300,000 viewers on this show. It'd be cool if we had 300,000 likes. But, you know, do what you do, I guess. You know, you owe me nothing. Take the show, watch it for free, but your support makes the show possible. Soapy Enigma says, I got the board's order. I ordered. Your board still has the block text for your name. How do we go about finding out if we were one of the first 100? The Discord has been fairly quiet. Can't wait for a restock of the booby boards. For those that are wondering about boonieshq.com, boards should be coming in on Thursday. The Discord is probably quiet because not that many people have signed up. It's relatively new, and we got to get the community rolling. So they should be reaching out to you if you are part of the first 100 to get that free board. So for those that want skateboards, boonieshq.com, but we are completely sold out. We launched the boards, and they all got sold out. Now, as for the block text name, I think there's going to be another 150 of those boards, maybe 200, and they are misprints. I think what happened was when the graphic got loaded, the font wasn't properly on. And you know what happens when you don't have the font in? If you're on a new computer and you load the graphic, the font just converts to generic, and they got printed. So considered a lucky misprint. These things happen in alpha runs. And then we'll have new boards. And then I'm going to have a new graphic coming out soon. Crush Factor PC. Soros likely purchased 200 radio stations to coordinate a, if only used once, signal to illegals. I don't know. I think he wants influence. Flying Raptor Jesus says, Wanakee is pronounced Wanakee. So many towns in Wisconsin that only locals can pronounce. LOL. That's right. Wanakee. There you go. We got it. Thank you for the pronunciation. And I would like you all to know, my friends, never, I would say this, never insult a person for mispronouncing a word. It means they learned it from reading. And that's why often I'm reading this and speaking it, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Mispronounce words. I remember one time, 8 years ago, I said Yamulk because I didn't know how to spell yarmulke. Hey, it happens, man. What am I supposed to do? Act like it never happened? Nah, it happened. Leland Taylor says, don't confuse likable with agreeable. Walz is not likable. I'm telling you guys, don't underestimate him. This is what I'm saying. You may not like him, but when you look at the sentiment from a lot of people, I'm looking at the moderates, and they're saying they like the guy. You need to understand this. When I say he's likable, I'm not telling you he's a good person. I'm not saying that we should be friends with him. I'm saying this is what you need to be careful of. It is one of his strengths and how they're going to try to get votes. You need to counter it. J.D. Vance did by also being polite and likable. He masterfully handled that. All right, let's go. Rocky says the way the world is falling into war just shows what happened when the world's police start to get defunded. Indeed. It's crazy, man. All right. Ryan Kitchmeyer says, nobody talking about Vance's pink tie. It's Cancer Awareness Month. Every pro athlete is wearing pink accessories. Interesting. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, it's a good point. Wow. Spidge B says, RFK Sr. said, some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. Harris ripped that off. Call her out. Really? Unburdened by what has been. Dante Demon 25 says, hi, Tim. I'm a Gen Z 23-year-old, and I want to say, most of my generation and friends hate the wars and just want America first. We are tired of it. Let's go, brother. Tell all your friends, and you're going to be like, hey, Gen Z dude, you want to be cool like me? We don't want wars. We want houses and families and secure borders. We want to be able to play video games. We want to have kids. Push our kid on the swing. Take him to baseball games. That's the American dream, baby. They're taking it from us. I will say this today. I will say this tomorrow, and I will say it right now. Gen Z deserves everything. And there are a lot of people that I always hear Gen Z's lazy this and millennials are lazy that, dude. I call lazy people lazy. I'll say there's a lot of millennials that are cuckoo. And there are a lot of Gen Z people who are lazy, but I tell you this right now. I don't care who you are. If you're a young person and you're in your early 20s, it is your birthright to receive the structures that were built by your ancestors. It is your birthright to inherit this country, same as all of the rest of us. You should have a house. You should have a family. You should have a good paying job. And they have taken that from you, and they've taken that from us. But more so Gen Z than millennials, and it's only gotten worse. Now, millennials are a weird generation. But I look at Gen Z right now, and I'm like, why isn't this 23-year-old dude owning a home with a car, 2.5 kids, all of that good stuff, the way this country was supposed to be, that the greatest generation fought so hard for? What happened? And I look at the CBP One app, and I look at our open borders, and I look at the grants they're giving to non-citizens. Eric Adams giving $4,000 to non-citizens to permanently settle in New York. And I said, why aren't you giving Gen Z money so they can live and work in this city? I've had enough, man. If our young people can't get a foothold, this is why I said I'm in favor of some form of student loan forgiveness, and I'll explain. I don't think you get to walk away with free money, but suspending the interest rates so you only got to pay down the principal, we should do it. Here's my plan. If I was running, I'd say, the moment I can do this, however I can do this, interest rates on all student loans are abolished. You will only pay back your principal. If you received money, you spent the money, you owe society for that money to be paid back. Agreed. However, if you've already paid more than you loaned, you received in loans, because this happens to people. They get a $20,000 loan, and then they end up paying back $30,000, and they still owe $10,000 later because of interest rates. We will credit that on your taxes. You will not pay taxes on that $10,000. Why? Young people settled with debt can't buy houses. Houses are too expensive as it is. We've got to find a way to get prices down. J.D. Vance is right. We've got to get many of these illegal immigrants to go home. They're not supposed to be here, and starting with criminals specifically, reducing the demand on properties and rentals, freeing up inventory for young people to cool prices, and then give them an opportunity to do so. Right now, this country is facing serious crisis if our younger generation is not going to be able to have a family and own property. I do not accept that for 1 second. I hope all of you people all you Gen Zers who listen to this show, send that message and let them know this is what, I can't speak for everybody, but it matters a lot to me. I live well. We've built up a company. I work hard every single day. There should not be a circumstance in which a single Gen Z individual who has a good job and is fighting and is taking responsibility is left without. This country is supposed to provide for our youth so they can inherit the reins of control and take over. It's not going to be possible if we have a bunch of isolated, homeless, struggling individuals inheriting this country. It is a disgrace that there are children growing up and entering the workforce and entering adulthood who have not been given the fair opportunity to live and have families and own property. I do not accept that. Look, it's a bit selfish too. When I'm old, if these young people don't have a foothold, this country falls apart, and I don't want to live there. We have an obligation to those who come next to make sure we've prepared them for exactly what is coming and what they need to do the jobs to be done. We've taught them poorly, we are teaching them poorly, and we are not leaving them the resources they need, and I don't accept that. All right. Amtrue says, liars tell you what you want to hear, hence likable. Agreed. And also understand, as he's a liar, Tim Walz has lied quite a bit. It's also how he presents those lies. He is trying to convince you, and that is a dangerous game. And so understand what that means when we are challenging this. Josiah Itzaki says, Israel is necessary. Criticize the government, not the right for Israel to exist. I left the Dems because of this. Thanks for your contributions. And I'm telling people, man, look, if the end result is this, there's a lot of people I've said that are like, I'd vote for Joe Biden if he was anti-Israel. And I'm like, okay, let America burn because you hate Israel so much. No. Donald Trump, I think, is the better choice. I am terrified of a Harris administration. If Democrats are saying the Israel issue has turned me Republican, I say welcome to the fray, and I hope Trump does right by you. That's it. Let's roll. Let's talk about this next story, my friends, though. Let's jump into it. From the Daily Mail, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, forcefully slapped ex-girlfriend for flirting with another man in booze-fueled assault after date to star-studded gala. This is a wild story. Now, Doug Emhoff being an abusive woman beater is kind of crazy to think about. I'm wondering how his relationship with Kamala actually is and if it's genuine or whatever, because you know what they say, man. You know, people who do these things, they don't change. This is an ingrained behavior. And this is only, 12 years ago, right? He smacked her so hard she spun around in France. Wild. One of her friends told the story. Now, I'll throw you this one. Clinton warns of October surprise that'll distort and pervert Harris. This is scandalous. Kamala's husband beat his ex-girlfriend? Now, they're reporting it definitively. Daily Mail is not naming the woman, who is a successful New York attorney, but will refer to her by the pseudonym Jane. A second friend said Jane, who had been dating Emhoff for 3 months, also told her about the alleged violence at the time. A third friend told DailyMail.com that Jane first told her in 2014 that she had dated Emhoff and recounted the full story of his alleged abuse in 2018 when Senator Harris was in the news for grilling Justice Brett Kavanaugh. in a Senate hearing over assault allegations. The friends, who all asked not to be named for fear of retaliation by Emhoff, shared with Daily Mail pictures of him and Jane together from 2012 and other documents and communications corroborating elements of the story. Wild. Jane declined to comment. The shocking claims follow revelations by Daily Mail that Emhoff cheated on his first wife and mother of his 2 kids in 2008, allegedly impregnating his daughter's nanny, who also worked as her grade school teacher. Jeez. Emhoff admitted the affair with the nanny and teacher, Najan Naylor, after Daily Mail published the story last month. All 3 of Jane's friends said she also told them about a disturbing alleged incident during her relationship with the second gentleman, in which Emhoff nonchalantly admitted to impregnating Naylor. Emhoff told Jane that the nanny accused him of causing her to have a miscarriage. Wow. Brutal. This story's nuts. According to the friends, Emhoff did not say how he was allegedly responsible for the miscarriage, and he told Jane the nanny's claims were false. I think the implication here is that he beat her as well. I'm not saying he did, but that's the implication. But the second gentleman allegedly confessed to Jane that he paid Naylor a settlement of around $80,000 and had the nanny sign a non-disclosure agreement. It sounds like he beat her and then paid her off. Emhoff was previously dubbed by Democrats as a wife guy and a mensch, a Yiddish term for an honorable, kind man. He has also spoken out in media interviews about being an ally to women and against toxic masculinity. In a fawning interview on Sunday, MSNBC host and former Biden White House press secretary Jen Psaki told Emhoff that he reshaped the perception of masculinity despite his admitted affair with his daughter's nanny and teacher. I've always been like this, Emhoff said to Psaki. To me, it's the right thing to do, support women. These allegations strike to the heart of his benevolent image, promoted by the Harris presidential campaign. Jane's friends said she was given tickets by wealthy friends to go to the Foundation for AIDS Research Gala Dinner, an elite charity auction filled with top celebrities and Hollywood executives, held on May 24th, 2012 at Hotel du Cap in Antibes. Is that Antibes? I don't know how to pronounce it. Antibes, near Cannes in southern France. I know how to say that one because I've heard of the Cannes Film Festival. Plus, in French, you just don't say the last few letters, huh? Attendees that year included model Cara Delevingne, Antonio Banderas, Alec Baldwin, Kylie Minogue, Kirsten Dunst. We get it. The friend said Jane brought her then boyfriend Emhoff as a +1. As one of Jane's friends, a top New York businessman, said he was at home getting ready for bed that night when he got an unexpected phone call. It was hard to hear because she was sobbing. She told me she was with a guy and he hit her. It was very clear that what she was telling me. She said she was with the guy, her date. She was at the Cannes Film Festival and he hit her. She was in the car with the guy at the time. I don't know what to do. I didn't know whether to call the French police. I couldn't get a hold of her after calling back. He said he still had a vivid memory of the troubling conversation 12 years ago. In later conversations, but pretty contemporaneous with that, she told me more about the guy. It was something like 3 a.m. They were trying to get out of there and they both had been drinking. There was a gigantic line of taxis. Jane went up to one of the valet guys, offered him €100 or whatever to get to the head of the line. She told me she put her hand on his shoulder. Doug apparently thought she was flirting, came over and slapped her in the face. Whoa! Wild accusations. Here's a travel itinerary, information redacted, of course. A May 17, 2012 email provided by friends written to Jane, one of her fellow attendees, gives the location of the hotel they stayed at. She slapped him back. My impression is that he had a lot to drink. She was sobbing on the phone afterwards, but she wasn't slurring her words. She told me that she broke up with him that night. A second friend, another female New York attorney, said Jane told her about the alleged attack. They had dinner. She said Doug was very charming. It was lovely. Then I believe it was around between 2 and 3 a.m. It was still raging, but she was wearing 4-inch heels and a floor-length gown, so it was time to depart. She said there had been no fight before he hit her. You would have thought it was a fairy tale trip. She put her hand on the valet's shoulder as she was talking to him. Doug comes up. She said she turned her around by her right shoulder, and she was completely caught off guard, and he hauled up and slapped her so hard she spun around. She said she was in utter shock. She was so furious she slapped him on the one side and then the other cheek with the other hand. The 3 friends said that as Jane tried to leave following the alleged assault, Emma forced his way into the cab with her. All of a sudden, the car was there, and they're ushering her into the car. She said she wanted to go back to the hotel without him, but while she was shutting the door, he forced himself into the car, which she did not want. I think she asked him what the F was that all about in the car, and the only thing she could really get out of him was that he thought she was hitting on the valet. Jane told me she was so embarrassed she couldn't believe he is the person that he is, and that it turned into this trailer trash moment. It woke her up about the self-delusion she was having, explaining away the teacher's story. She realized he was bad news. It was the first time she saw his ugly side. I got a clip for you guys. 12 seconds following the debate. Let's talk about what Democrats are representing here.
And so I think that the people who want the fist fight are the base of the Democratic Party. Democrats want to see someone get up there and give a knuckle sandwich to Donald Trump. That's what they want. But that is not.
I'm going to play it again. Did you hear the chuckle?
Someone get up there and give a knuckle sandwich to Donald Trump. That's what they want.
A slight chuckle. She says the base of the Democratic Party wants violence. They want someone to go up there and knuckle sandwich, which means to strike him in the face. And she makes the fist pounding sound with her hand, and then you hear a chuckle. Yes. Joy Reid said the quiet part out loud, says Natalie Winters. Democrats want a fist fight and someone to give a knuckle sandwich to Trump. They want violence. I don't tolerate this stuff. I can't handle this stuff. This is not what this country is supposed to be about. Tim Walz and J.D. Vance showed us decorum last night. And I will give Tim Walz the respect for being a kind guy on stage. He's a liar. I don't think he's a good person, but he was likable. And people say they don't want to accept this, but I'm not saying it's a good thing that you should support him for it. I'm saying that is his strength. He makes people view him as a likable guy, and you need to overcome that to win more votes. Recognize, steel man your opponent's positions. Stop pretending like Kamala doesn't have key points she's going to use to try and win. Stop pretending Trump is infallible. Stop pretending Tim Walz doesn't have reasons why they chose him. When people say Tim Walz flicked off, college students for heckling him, I'm like, he probably did not do that. I mean, it's possible, but likely didn't. Do not underestimate your opponents and assume that they're so dumb they can walk into these traps. I'll tell you this now. Kamala Harris, okay? It looks like the guy she's married to, because she's got to be, is a woman beater. And this story seems to be heavily corroborated. I've long talked about how you need multiple sources to confirm a story. And what do we have here? They did. They have receipts. They have numerous witnesses, secondhand witnesses who said, we were told this happened. It looks like Doug Emhoff struck a woman because he was jealous and drunk. But you know it. When they say the base of the Democratic Party wants to see a knuckle sandwich, when we see the far left marching through the streets, when they pull out guns, when they shoot people like they did in Portland, Aaron Danielson shot and killed by a leftist, or how about in Provo, Utah, where the BLM riders ran up and just shot a driver for no reason? I'm not surprised we see this. And every day they tell us it's the right that is violent. This is a scandal. No surprise it's coming out October 1st, October 2nd. I can't say I'm surprised to hear something like this. You don't hear anything about this like Trump. They say, oh, Trump said grab him by the you know what and all that stuff. It's like, dude, call that whatever you want. Call it crude, call it crass. But there's a big difference between the criticisms Trump's received and the violence that these people have been advocating for. They claim it's the right doing it. Yeah, right. The worst thing we saw from the right was January 6th. Bad? Yes. But was it a summer of love? No. Was it firebombing the White House like the left did on May 29th, 2020? No. They set fire to St. John's Church. The president was forced into a bunker. You can't compare January 6th to these things. You could criticize January 6th. We can call it out. No problem. By all means, it was bad. Not a fan of it. But we saw sustained ongoing violence nationwide to the tune of 30 plus deaths. How many people died on January 6th? Just Trump supporters. And then they lie on stage and say several cops died later. Yeah, unrelated. One guy had a stroke or something, and they're like, he died. It's like, he had a stroke. Well, the stress of the event, okay, I guess maybe. But on that day, it was nowhere near as bad as what we saw with the Summer of Love riots. So when you see a story like this, I say about Kamala Harris, I say this, man, I'm worried about this, but I am not surprised. So we'll wrap this one up there, my friends. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. If everybody who watched smashed the like button, we'd have 1 million likes. I don't know, we'd have a couple 100,000 likes. And also make sure you pick up the song Coming Home. There's me screaming into a microphone. The new song available on iTunes. If you want to send a message that we care about our cities and we are tired of the decay and the degeneracy, check out the song Coming Home on YouTube featuring Phil Labonte and purchase the song on iTunes. It's got to be iTunes because they're trying to lock us out so that we can't chart. They won't write about our music. The entertainment industry is ignoring us. So what we said was, okay, we'll make you write about us because we're going to sell music. We're going to chart on Billboard, and we have almost every single time except for one song. And then they changed the rules so we can't chart. Now they're saying, well, iTunes is the only one that matters. How much you want to bet after this week they're going to say we don't count iTunes anymore either? Buy the song, Coming Home on iTunes. Smash the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you all at 6 p.m. in the next segment. My friends, next up, and one of the most impactful stories we have is the port strike. Reigniting inflation. This is an economic apocalypse just before an election, but we'll grab your super chats real quick for those that have chimed in, to bring your opinions in and see what you guys have to say. Only a couple updates here from super chats. Let's go. Hunter King says, I get called an idiot for saying the money allocated to Ukraine should have been saved for a natural disaster. It's crazy. I agree. Like, we could be funding North Carolina. I give $250 billion to them, man. Build a massive, beautiful bridge with an aquarium over it. I don't care. It's better than giving it to war. James Savick says, if you think Biden was a puppet, just wait until you get a load of Kamala. Yep. Smoocha says, longtime viewer from Denmark. The rest of the world also need you to win in November. All the wars, refugees, and migrants invading the EU. Bring back Trump. Here, here, brother. Also, by the way, shout out. I love Denmark. I think it's the country I've traveled to the most. I've been to Copenhagen way too often, and we'd go to Christiania, hang out there. There's a burger joint not too far from there that we love. I'm a big fan of Denmark, man. Beautiful place. Your country rocks. Maybe I'll get to visit someday in the future. It's been a while. Sir Joshua said, my favorite, I got to be honest, though, is Spain. I love Spain. You know what I mean? Sir Joshua says, I'm 20 and would love to own a house and be a father to a beautiful family, but that's not possible anymore in this social and political climate that wants to burn those traditional ideals. Agreed. And I reject that 100%. We have to bring this back somehow. And it's for you guys, Gen Z. That's the message. I want every Gen Z kid sitting there saying, yeah, I do deserve to own a house. I deserve to have a car and a family. I mean it. And I think the Gen Z should be screaming at the top of their lungs at the older octogenocracy in Congress who has burned their path to the American dream to the ground. And what they do is they say, you can't have an American dream, and they blame Trump. They blame the Republicans. Dude, I'm telling you, it ain't going to fly. You bring in non-citizens and offer them tens of thousands of dollars to settle here, and Gen Z is going to come asking questions about why they can't own a house. I'm so pissed off about this, dude. You're supposed to be 23, owning a house with a good job, and we have lost all of that. Now we got kids coming out of college with massive debt, working at Starbucks, and they're in their mid to late 20s. I reject this. I resent this. Our system has failed our young people. It failed millennials. It's failing Gen Z worse. We're turning this around. We're going to make America great again. And it's for the young people who are coming after us. Here's how I see it. Great men and women planted trees because they said our children need shade. And then at some point, as we were growing up, the people running the system didn't water them or take care of them, and they burned down, and they're burning down in a fire. And they tell us too bad. And then what do? They start giving out the shrubs to non-citizens. We're saying, what about us? You burned our trees down. Well, I'll tell you this today, my friends. My vision is to plant trees whose shade I know I shall never sit beneath, so that those who come next are going to have something. I remember I crossed the Williamsburg Bridge in New York. And I'm standing at the peak of the bridge, looking over the river, just thinking how crazy this is. This bridge so high, massive undertaking of managerial power and labor. And I said, I never spent a dime on this thing. Not a dime. I can go to New York right now. I don't live there. I don't pay taxes. And I can walk on that bridge. Why? Because great men and women before me did the work and planned and built the Brooklyn Bridge, the Williamsburg Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge. Actually, I think it was the Williamsburg Bridge I was on. The Queensboro Bridge. They built these bridges so that we could leisurely stroll over the river instead of taking a ferry. I did nothing for it. They just built it, and I get to use it. What a dream come true. My life is better. It is easier and more convenient. I don't got to wait for a ferry. I can ride my bike to and from Manhattan and Brooklyn. That is the shade that I get to sit beneath because great men and women did the work for me. I reject and resent that they have burned this country down and that the young people are losing this. We got to build that back, my friends. Shake and Bake says, I'm union. F these guys here. There's a time and place. We aren't even in the top 50 of ports. Mob ran fools making unions look bad. It's creating division. I'm pro collective bargaining. I don't like how unions operate for that reason. So sorry to hear it, man. All right. Let's see. Dunnery says, for anyone having audio issues, restart or refresh. You know, my friends, I apologize. Nothing I can do. The stream, it crashes periodically, and it's not us. We've got a studio here, so we've got multiple backups. But I'm telling you, I think YouTube doesn't like my show, and they don't like me. And it's only in spite of the censorship we survive on this platform. I really do think so. Look what they do to Steven Crowder. They try to ban him every which way, and they punish us. They make it hard to find the show. They make it hard for you to find the show. And so that's why I always say, copy the URL if you're watching it. Control-C, post it on X, post it on Facebook. Spread the word, tell your friends and family. We're also available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen on the audio side so that you can pick up the show later on. We post a show every day just around noon on the on Spotify, Apple, on all podcast platforms. But they're trying to shut us down. Look at this. Where's this? Someone said, had to delete the YouTube app and re-download to fix audio cutting in and out. That's not us. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it right now. Our broadcast is solid. Our internet is solid. It's ridiculous how this operates. Hate to hear it, man. But it is what it is. We're going to push back. We need your support. So you can buy the song Coming Home. You can share this show, subscribe to this show, share the show, like I said. Let's get that last segment. We're going to go a little long today. CNBC.com, my friends. Port strike could reignite inflation with larger economic impact, dependent on how long it takes. I got to tell you, my friends, we're looking at shortages. This massive walk-off is going to result in a crisis for Christmas and Thanksgiving. This is the apocalypse for Democrats right now. You need the unions. Unions tend to go Democrat. And right now, 30 days out from the election, with early voting happening right now, there is a strike. Prices are going to skyrocket. And these people early voting, they're going to walk in and say, I don't know what's going on, man. Just give me Trump. Trump will solve the problem. This is going to be big. Before we get started, let me give a shout out to our new song, Coming Home, featuring Phil Labonte, Pete Parada. We got Carter Banks. The song is about the decay and degradation of our cities, their collapse. And I hope this song's message resonates with you guys. And I hope you like the song. It's rock. People tell me, Tim, rock songs ain't going to make it anymore. You got to make weird synth pop stuff. And I'm like, we make the music we like. And if you like it, go on iTunes, buy the song on iTunes so we can send a message and let them know they can't keep us out. They can't gatekeep and deny us. We are going to keep making art. If everybody who watched this video bought Coming Home on iTunes, we'd be Hot 100 #1, and they'd be asking themselves, how is it that a song that is political in nature, not overt, but political in nature, about the decay of our cities is the top song right now on the charts? I got to be honest, I don't think we'll ever get to #1, but you know, wouldn't it be nice if they had to write a story and said, song about our cities in ruin and decay reaches #1. Send that message home right before an election. I'd appreciate it. It's my song. Of course, I want to promote it, but I do appreciate you guys and your support. Here we go from the Daily Mail. Walmart and IKEA and Home Depot are among big retailers that will be most affected by strikes that are crippling ports on the East Coast. Dock workers who have shut down 36 ports from Maine to Texas will cost the U.S. economy billions of dollars and cause shortages of goods and price rises within days, experts warn. Retailers account for about half of all container shipping volume. Many of the big players rushed in Halloween and Christmas merchandise early to avoid any strike-related disruptions, incurring extra costs to ship and store those goods. But shortages are still expected. From bananas and other fresh produce in days to beers, wines, and spirits, and also toys and holiday products if it lasts longer. Retail behemoth Walmart is the biggest importer through the affected ports, typically bringing in up to 48,000 containers a year. Each can hold up to 28 tons, according to UPS. Look at this. Bananas! My friends, every night I make a protein shake with some coconut milk. And the difference between coconut water and milk is they mix the coconut meat into it and blend it up, and it is very healthy. It's got those healthy fats. Yo, how am I going to get coconuts? I know we got coconuts in Florida, a lot of them, but they're going to get expensive because we import a lot, especially from the Caribbean. IKEA is the second biggest with 42,900 containers. Bob's Discount Furniture, Dollar General, Amazon Folgers, outside retailers big brands hit are Continental Tire, Hyundai, General Motors, Goodyear, Michelin, Heineken, and Pepsi. You're not going to get your Heinekens? Yo, this is wild. Okay. What stocks making the biggest moves today? Okay, let me pull this one up. Are they moving down? I wonder. Oh, they locked me out. I wouldn't be surprised if with this strike, stocks are going to start falling. Manufacturers of everything from trucks to toys to artificial Christmas trees face obstacles now that the International Longshoremen's Association has called a stoppage at major Eastern container and cargo ports. From a macro perspective, the impact will depend on duration. Joe Biden, under powers granted by the Taft-Hartley Act, could step in and order an 80-day cooling off period that would at least temporarily halt the stoppage. Oh, do it, bro. Could you imagine if Biden goes in and says to the unions, you aren't allowed to strike right now? Yo, that's going to make every single one of these union guys vote Donald Trump with a smile on their face. Rocking a hard place. But you know what? If he does not do this and the shortages inflame in the next couple of weeks, gas prices go up, goods at stores are going up. It's already hard enough on the American people. And they want to pretend the economy's better than ever. It's a lie. You just go and ask people and they'll tell you what's up. They say, though there's little indication Biden will do this, that will leave hopes in the hands of negotiators for the union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance that the strike won't drag on and cause greater hardship for a U.S. economy heading into the critical holiday shipping season. Labor action port workers along the east and Gulf Coast of the United States will provide a modest hit to GDP, said RSM's chief economist, Joseph Brusulas, can't pronounce that, sorry, who put the weekly impact at a bit more than 0.1 percentage points across of gross domestic product and 4.3 billion in lost imports and exports. Given that the American economy is on a 3% growth path, at this time, we do not expect the strike to derail the trajectory of the domestic economy or present a risk to an early and unnecessary end to the current economic expansion, he added. Indeed, the $29 trillion U.S. economy has dodged multiple landmines and has been in growth mode for the past 2 years. The Atlanta Federal Reserve is tracking third quarter growth of 2.5%, boosted by an acceleration in net exports. A prolonged work stoppage, though, could threaten that. Some of the main industries facing challenges include coal, energy, and agricultural products. One rule of thumb is that for each strike day, it takes nearly a week to get ports operating at normal levels. The cost of the strike would escalate over time as backlogs of exports and imports grow. Perishable products like imported fresh fruit might be the first to come in short supply. If the strike extends beyond a few days, shortages of certain production inputs could eventually slow production and raise prices for manufactured goods like autos. I gotta tell you guys, man, the climate change agenda begets this. They don't want us shipping bananas from the Caribbean to the United States. They say, just don't eat bananas. You don't need them. You got. Where do you think the bananas come from, right? We got Guatemala, banana country, banana republics. They're shipping them in. And the Democrat argument is that this transport, this energy use is burning coal and fossil fuels and putting carbon in the atmosphere. You think the dock strike is bad? Wait until they start implementing restrictions on fuel use for shipping goods. Now, I'm going to agree a little bit. Let me tell you something. I can tell you about skateboards. Skateboarding has a problem. They get lumber in North America, send the wood to China. China makes the skateboards. They send them back. We don't do that. BooniesHQ.com. We make skateboards. It's American, North American rock maple, made by people. I believe it's rock maple. That's what they use. Made by an American company right here in America. Why? Americans deserve our jobs. We want to work with Americans and build up American jobs. More importantly, look, it is insane that we'll take wood from America to China and then back to the U.S. Why? It's because they use Chinese slave labor. They get paid $1 an hour, some other pennies in the dollar, some garbage, so they can do cheap labor and sell cheap products. I won't stand for that. But understand what this means. They're going to cut off the use. That's why I say I agree a little bit. But the Democrat climate change agenda, which I got to tell you, on the debate last night, they asked J.D. Vance. Trump said that it was a hoax. And he's saying, yeah, they don't put their money where their mouth is. They're claiming all of these things about climate change and buying beachfront property and flying in private jets. So I don't disagree, right? But I think it's insane that at a time when our economy is hurt and we need to start bringing back in American jobs, and J.D. Vance was talking about, he says, this will solve a lot of that problem, a lot of those problems. What you will get under the Democrats' plan is They're going to send jobs overseas. Then they're going to punish companies who use fuel to transfer these things, and it's going to destroy American jobs and crank up prices. You know why? Higher prices mean slower economy. Slower economy means less climate change. Oh, because we're not generating as much carbon. I think they're hypocrites. I think there are ways to solve this. I think there's quote unquote green energy like nuclear power that they're not talking about. But we look at this dock strike right now, this port strike, right during an election. I don't know how the Democrats are going to navigate this one. Look, I got to tell you, when you got hurricane disaster, war in Eastern Europe, expanding war in the Middle East, a port strike, and a weakened economy all at the same time, I look at that story where Kamala Harris skipped the Al Smith dinner, and they say the last person to do that was who skipped it was Mondale. Remember Mondale? He won one state. Yeah. Now, I don't think Donald Trump will get a 49-state landslide. No. But I got to tell you, it looks bad for Kamala Harris, and I wonder if they've already resigned themselves to defeat, especially with that debate performance last night. J.D. Vance, man, Donald Trump is a lucky guy. He picked a good one right there. J.D. Vance is the future of MAGA, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm seeing optimism across the board, and I don't know how Democrats pull out of this tailspin. Reignite inflation? We've got inflation. What they say is, no, inflation's fine. Yes. But inflation compared with inflation-adjusted wage growth, people are losing money. And this is a disaster across the board. It's hard for us. Excuse me. I run a business. We run several, and I can see it. Don't you come to me and tell me the economy is good when we're looking at this. You know, one of the things we've run into quite a bit, because we always say, become a member at timcast.com, right? Now, our memberships have been up for a couple of years. They've always been $10. I know like Daily Wire charge a little bit more, and we've talked about it. Prices are going up. Costs are going up. We need to be able to pay more. Like affording the resources we need. It is tough because as we stay the same, it's either we need to add 10,000 new members because volume is going to help us get through it, or we got to raise prices. But the problem is we raise prices, we lose members. And then we're just making nothing. What we need is a better economy where people have disposable income, they're living comfortably, and they say, I can spare $10 for Timcast. I think they do good work. Instead, what we're finding is people saying, I love you guys, but we're just struggling right now. Well, we can't charge more to people who are struggling right now. How are we supposed to run a business where we host these shows and pay a staff with the inflation as bad as it is? Because they're lying to us. Man, I hope Trump wins because I'm just hoping that we see the ad sales start going back up. Everything starts improving. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not struggling over here. We do well. We do. But my point is this. I can see the inflation impacting every area of our business, and it's making us have to tighten our belts because we want to make sure we're prepared for the worst. But the regular American people living paycheck to paycheck are struggling through this. Democrats are in trouble on this one, my friends. It has been a bad past week. It's been a bad yesterday. We'll see how it plays out. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button and subscribe to this channel? Share the show because sharing these videos is the most powerful thing that you can do. Word of mouth is how shows grow. But I got to tell you, normally with the amount of views we get and super chats and likes, we hit some of the highest numbers live. We had 36,000 people watching live today. You'd think YouTube would prop us up in the algorithm and say, hey, this show's really good, but they don't. They bury us. And they make sure that when you try and search for me, you only get people who are lying about me, who hate my guts. It's the most disgusting thing. It's despicable. But they're hoping that the pressure will shut me down. But I'm not going to get shut down. I refuse to accept that. But I need your help. Share the show, become a member at timcast.com, and pick up the song Coming Home on iTunes by Timcast. I appreciate it, you guys. We'll be back at 8 p.m. at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We'll see y'all then. And for you guys, we went a little over, but I'll grab just a couple more super chats. One Angel says, you're the best, Tim. Love everything you're doing. Watch both shows every day. Keep up the great work. To all Tim haters, go F yourselves. And you're allowed to hate me. I got no problem with that. Appreciate the support, though. Nobody's perfect. There are people who lie to grift off of my name, making up fake stories because they're evil, hateful people. That's just the reality. What are you going to do about it? All right, last one. Bodie says, I think this strike is a double-edged sword. It proves and reminds people that if they come together, we can stick it to the system. The downside is so many people depend on the system. It's true. But sometimes you've got to run out of a burning building. We depend on the building. Yeah, well, if it's on fire, you can't stand in it, can you? And when you're standing outside in the cold, it sucks. But sometimes it's what you got to do. My friends, as I already just said, closing up the last segment, smash that like button. Appreciate all of your support. Become a member at timcast.com. We really need your support. That's what runs everything. And I really do hope, man, I got my fingers crossed. You know, look, we had 36,000 live concurrents today. We had 93,000 watching Timcast IRL last night. Yo, if we sold 100,000 copies of Coming Home, I'm pretty sure that would be the #1 song, or it'd be up there. And I would just love to see it because John Rich had one of those songs he put out and he hit number 60. I want to force them to acknowledge that we care about these problems. But it is what it is. You know, I'm going to promote myself the best I can. And if you guys think we do a good job, that's one way to help. Coming Home on iTunes. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and we'll see y'all tonight.